Welcome back once again to another edition of the You Should Get a License podcast edition. I say edition of the You Should Get a License podcast edition, but it's You Should Get a License and it is the podcast edition where we actually get the opportunity to speak to an insurance industry professional who can share their insights and wisdom. And today, very excited about the guests that we have on this episode, because this is someone who is critically acclaimed, throughout the industry, really heralded as a leader. She is the owner of Carrington Insurance, specializing in Medicare, senior care solutions. She's also the CEO of Burning Bush LLC, a company that focuses on CBD oils and treatments. So we're going to talk about that too, and how she has really just expanded, her knowledge and experience in insurance, starting all the way from selling Kirby vacuums all the way up until now, running her business, even getting her children involved. I won't steal all the thunder of the interview, but I do want to welcome to the You Should Get a License platform, Miss Nikki Carrington. Nikki, welcome.
Rod, thank you so much for the warm welcome. You got me excited. I didn't know who you were introducing. So it's definitely an honor and a privilege to be on this platform with you today. So thank you again for allowing me to be here and share.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, we're excited to have you. Once again, I was just speaking before we started recording, just letting you know, how many people have really talked about you, prior to our conversation and the impact that you've had on their careers. And I want to get into that. I want to start with, your career, where it started, going into your leadership experiences, even going off and branching into your own agency and business and the CBD industry. But first, what I like to do for this platform is to let people know that there's many different varieties, of this industry that they can participate in and start their careers. So what area of insurance, have you focused on throughout your career? I know you've been in the industry 15 years plus at this point. What area, have you focused on in the insurance industry?
Yes, great question. So the area that I've focused mostly on in this industry has been the Medicare space. I started off in final expense. That was my comfort zone. So I was helping seniors to really start planning for their burial, conversations that a lot of people don't like to have, especially in certain communities. And so that's where I started, is with the final expense. But then I found that those same clients had a ton of Medicare questions, and I was not equipped to properly assist my own book of business. So that's when I realized, I'm not being of value or as much value as I could be to my clients by not having access to resources that could really benefit them. So I went back and got some additional education, got into the Medicare space, and that's where I have been ever since. And I absolutely love working with the senior market. Every client of mine is a family member. They're always an extension of my family. And, I take great pride in being that for them, being a family member to them and making sure that, I'm following them through all stages of their lives, being there for their children and grandchildren. So it's a great space to be in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A powerful space, and, it's one that, for me, I've worked in employee benefits throughout my career, but I've always had kind of a soft spot, for Medicare and for the seniors, just from the standpoint of, our parents and our elders, they took care of us when we were young. And, when I think Medicare is kind of our opportunity to take care of them, so to speak. Right. And I have been the IT department for my parents. So, that's probably the extent of where I've done it. But I think that's just an awesome space to go. So let's go all the way back before we start, going into your career journey. Mm-hmm. I want you to take me back to, 9-year-old, 10-year-old Nikki Carrington. Well, it wasn't Carrington at this point, but Nikki at this point, right?
Yes.
And what did you want to be when you grew up? What was the dream job?
Wow. So I wanted to be everything, right? So I've got to narrow that down. I was the oldest out of 3 girls, so I was always the leader. My siblings always say, you took charge. You always had to be the first, and you always had to tell people what to do. So I had that leadership capability at a very young age. And I had decided at one point that I was going to go into the military and that I was going to become a military officer and serve my country. Right. Which that was my goal at the time. And I did actually join the military. That's a whole nother conversation. I got accepted to a military academy. But things changed in life, and I took a different turn. And I knew that I always wanted to serve. So whatever capacity that I was going to work in as an adult, it was going to be in a role of servitude. I had to give back to my community. I had to make sure that I was contributing to the advancement of everyone around me. And so service was my goal in whatever capacity that the good Lord was going to lead me to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So starting from that, so military, you just say that's another conversation. Let's kind of go there. Let's go down that road, So growing up, you know, you were going to be in service. You were a Girl Scout when you were young as well.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. The quick fact, that we pulled. Now, where were you born?
Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Colorado Springs. Okay.
Yes.
Growing up in Colorado Springs, you said, hey, I want to go into the military. I want to be of service. You had some interesting things happening in your childhood as well, because you were a Girl Scout, but you also did some pageants.
Yes.
Beauty queen as well.
Yes.
Okay. And lots of social activity. So you've always been engaged, right?
Absolutely. Social space. I want to be in the front. I was always front center stage. Give me the microphone. That was me.
So how old when you decided, hey, I'm going to go in the military? How old were you at this point?
I was probably in middle school. So sixth, seventh grade, like 12 years old. I come from a military background. My father served in the military. My grandfather served in the military. Extended family members served in the military. So I've always seen that type of service. I've traveled many places, stateside as well as abroad. And so for me, that was my path. I've got to serve because that's what we do in my family.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service, and thank your family as well. Yes. So once you got your turn, right? Mm-hmm. You're going into the military. What branch?
Yeah. So when all of my friends were applying to colleges and universities, I was, I was reaching out to the military academies. I was training, making sure that I was fit and that I was ready mentally and physically for what the requirements were. And so I actually was accepted to United States Naval Academy back in 1997. It was a wonderful opportunity. I got a presidential nomination, a congressional nomination rather, to be able to go. And it was my dream. My parents were proud. My community was proud. And I went, and this, having a real conversation, a lot happened that first year. And I suffered from a physical injury where I could not complete my commission. And so I was devastated that I did not finish my assignment at the academy. That same year, just a couple months later, my mother tragically died. Oh, wow. So it was all for a reason. I did finish my 8 years of reserve duty. And during that time, after my mother passing away, I was able to be there for my family. So I felt like getting accepted into the academy, still serving in the reserve, and then being there for my younger siblings to help my father in raising them was an important task. So I feel like I was able to serve in multiple ways.
Absolutely. So coming out of that, where are you, career wise, life wise, what's the direction? So you're not active, you're in reserve. Mm-hmm. You're taking care of family. What is going on in your head career wise? Like, what direction are you feeling as far as just supporting yourself and everyone who needs you at that time?
So I decided to look at other colleges and universities that were close to home, because again, I had younger siblings. My father was now a widow. I had a sister that was only 3 years old at the time. Wow. So there was a lot happening. And so I reached out to Virginia State University, got a scholarship there, and finished my college education there in political science.
Go Trojans.
And yes, excited my son is there now as well. So it was a great opportunity because I was close to home, but I wasn't at home. So that was important for independence, of course. And then looking at political science opened up my eyes to how else I could serve. Mm-hmm. So I always look at a political science degree as a people degree. And I thought that from that degree, I would get into politics. And I realized that I would have to serve a little bit longer than I expected to make money in politics. So I decided that with that degree, I can talk to people. I'm comfortable in crowds. I've always been a salesperson. So I took that and after I graduated, went directly into the financial service industry. And that's when I got introduced to insurance.
Okay. So when you started in the, because you were in the banking, it was the banking side.
Yes.
First. Okay. Did you plan to stay that course, or did you know that was going to transition into actually full on insurance, final expense, all those things? Like what did you initially think you were doing?
I thought I was going to be a career banker. So I was like, I can dig this. I can be a banker. This is cool. You dress up every day. You're professional. Yeah. And banking introduced me to so many aspects of the financial industry. So I was doing business to business. Yes. I got my Series 6 and 63. So I was working with financial advisors. I started to help clients with their estates and trusts. And so it really opened up my eyes. And then I found that I became the banker for the senior population. So I was in a very large bank that had, it was very diverse. So we had what we used to call old money and new money. It was a combination of everything, clients from many different backgrounds. But I found that the seniors gravitated towards me. And they would wait, and there were other bankers available, and they would wait just to see me. And so I started to realize that's a niche that I didn't realize was there. This is who I'm supposed to serve. It's the senior population. And so they started asking, about life insurance and Medicare. And that's when the wheels started to turn that, maybe I could do this for myself.
Yes. I think it's interesting that you started in the banking world, or the banking side of financial services, because it's not really spoken about how interconnected insurance and banking really are. I mean, insurance companies are really banks when it's all said and done, right? I mean, they're collecting that premium, they're investing, they're doing the exact same thing that the bank would do, right? They're investing that money, and except I guess the bank isn't indemnifying you, I guess, against a loss.
Definitely not.
Right. But the premise is kind of the same, So how did that really come to fruition for you? So you're working with the seniors. You had the thought. Did you go out and seek a company? Did someone come in and speak with you? Like how did that transition happen for you?
Yeah. So I realized, and that's a great question, Rod. I realized I didn't have any experience in being independent. So I literally took a minority small business entrepreneur class at night. I was taking this class, it was every week, one night a week. And my son was young at the time. And so my husband was really involved. And he said, you know what, if you want to take this entrepreneurial course, go ahead and take it. I'll take care of our son while you do that. And I did that for several weeks and ended up getting a certificate. I was able to get a small business loan to start Carrington Insurance. And so that happened in 2011. And what that did was it gave me, I guess how I should put this is it gave me that confidence that, I have what it takes. They accepted my business proposal. They thought it was a great opportunity. And I went and branched off on my own. So I literally left the bank and said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sell insurance.
Wow. Man, oftentimes people have to be convinced,
Yes.
But you say, hey, I'm gonna jump off and pursue this. What element, if there is one, of your background that you find kind of gave you that mentality, or that gumption to do that?
I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I could tell stories for countless hours about how many businesses I've started.
Yes.
I'm glad my husband's not in the room because I've done everything. As you know, from previous, in college, I was selling Kirby vacuum cleaners.
Nice.
So I've done every type of job. I've felt like, you know what, I can do this. I can make money. There's business owners out here that are making it happen. And a lot of those endeavors failed. And they simply failed because I didn't have a proper plan in place.
Yeah.
You know, I was a go-getter. I could get this done. I can do anything. But if you don't have a plan in place, you know, failing the plan is planning to fail.
That's it.
So a lot of those endeavors did not work. And I needed to have those experiences to equip me for the future. Even when I started Carrington Insurance back in 2011, that was not as successful as I anticipated. And so I ended up going back to the workforce briefly, but by doing so, that equipped me with the skills, the leadership abilities to actually be successful in the space that we're in now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's go back, because you mentioned, you entrepreneurial minded early on, which is important for someone who is going to get into the industry, particularly if they're going to take a sales track, or they're going to take, any type of client facing, opportunity. They got to be able to connect with people, got to be able to engage and build relationships. Going back to your college period, Kirby vacuums, other things that you've experienced, all of those failures potentially, but really lessons, right? Because those were the building blocks that kind of brought you to, who you are today. I tell my son, who is 19, I say, look, if you find an opportunity that's 100%, if it's 100% commission, or, you got to go out there and kind of fall on your face a little bit, then go do it. Because you're going to build some character. What would you say to someone who is scared of things that may say, commission, or, having to go out and kind of, what they say, go on hunt, so to speak?
I love that question, Rod. I have a mentality that you eat what you kill.
Eat what you kill, yeah.
So you have to step out on faith. If you're not willing to bet on yourself, who are you willing to bet on?
Yeah.
So even with selling Kirby's, I had to tell you this funny story about the Kirby vacuum cleaners. I literally took that job because I needed money for an apartment in college. And I thought, it was one of those ads in the paper that said, work from home, make $1,000 a day. You've seen those ads.
Hey, look, you did Kirby. I did Cutco knives. So I get it. Right?
You understand me. We're on the same page. And so I went to the orientation. This is during the summer break between I think it was my sophomore and junior year in college. And it was an interest meeting, and everybody in there looked like they were a college student. And they literally put us in a white van. It was kind of scary, actually. Took us to a neighborhood, and they said, go to the houses that have the most junk in the yard. They're going to buy the vacuums. So I put a smile on my face. I put my beauty pageant, mentality on, and went to the door and smiled and see if they let me in the house. And I sold every single Kirby vacuum in every house, and literally made $6,000 in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I quit. That was my mentality at the time. I was in college. I was like, I only had to work for 2 weeks, and I made all the money I needed to make. And the owner of the company came to me and said, I want to make you one of my area managers. And I was like, I'm like 19. I'm really not interested in being an area manager for Kirby Vacuum. But thinking about that now, as opposed to back then, what kind of opportunity could that have given me if my mentality was a little bit different?
Right. So yeah, important to important to just impart that, into the young minds, and I'm glad that you mentioned that for anybody who is listening, because, some of our listeners, oftentimes have been, demographics that, are kind of in transitional periods, either young people determining what they're going to do. Maybe they've had exposure to something else that's exciting and sexy on the internet, like crypto or Forex or something like that right now. And maybe they're just thinking like, sure, well, I'll give it a listen. But you saying that really kind of highlights, hey, look, broaden your horizons of what the capabilities are for right now, because what you do then is going to create, who you are in the future. And you're right. There's individuals in the insurance industry who started at 18, 19 years old, and they're retiring at 30, or at least able to. They're probably not retiring, but they're able to retire, at 30. So it really does make a difference kind of coming in early. So making, and you mentioned even being flexible, you still utilized your license even when you went back into the corporate workforce, kind of bridging your own business. Can you talk a little bit about that and how just having the license just makes you viable as an entrepreneur or as a candidate?
Yeah, so I love talking about that because I feel like that's one of the greatest successes in my career was realizing that I needed more help. I'd started my business, but I was selling life insurance only, and I was missing opportunity. I had a business plan, it was great on paper, but actually making it happen, I found to be a little bit more difficult. And so I decided again that so many clients are asking about Medicare, I really need to get into this space. So I went to one of the Fortune 50 companies and I inquired about becoming a broker. Well, they happened to have a captive agent position that was available, and it was a startup market. Like, it was a brand new product that they were bringing to the market, and they were just hiring agents, and the salary was good. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and try this out because I know that I need help.
Mm-hmm.
So I put my business on the back burner and said, I'm going to do this for a couple of years and see what happens. Well, I was good at it. I was doing great. I was one of the top sales folks. I'd won numerous awards and trips. And then I saw that as an opportunity to really increase my knowledge. So in order to be self-sufficient, I needed to be better than my competition, so to speak. I needed to really understand products and understand the entire sales process, not only from face-to-face selling, but relationship building, recruiting a team, leadership skills. I needed to learn everything. So I took that position as a sales rep. Eventually I got, I was the top rep on the team. Sometimes you have to go to grow. So I actually left the state and went all the way out to the Midwest for an opportunity for management because I didn't have management under my belt. Got that opportunity, came back to Virginia, became a business development representative, became a sales manager in the state, and then moved on to become a director. And then that's where I really got my skills in tune. I had the leadership ability. I became a really good trainer. I was able to coach and develop my team. And my greatest reward was making sure that individuals on my team got promoted. And when I saw that I could do that, I realized I was completely set up for a full force agency. And I also realized I couldn't do it on my own. So my husband and I decided to start together. So this is what we do as a family.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. And having that support system, you've mentioned your husband, multiple times while you're building the entrepreneur course, starting in the business, starting the firm, you guys are doing that together. How important do you find that's been, having that support system?
It's essential.
Yeah.
It's essential. Had we, back in 2011, when we first started Carrington Insurance, had we done it together, I don't think we would have had the gaps that we did.
Got you.
It's just that realization that, and let me focus on that for a second, Rod, because I think somebody needs to hear this. Sometimes we stick so much to the fact that I need a check coming in. And that was our mentality. If you go ahead and start the business, you can build that and I'll make sure we have a guaranteed check coming in. Whereas if we started the business together, we could have done so much more as opposed to needing to hold on to that check. We didn't need that check.
That's strong. That's strong right there. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So now, at this stage you have you brought your son into the business as well, right?
Yes.
So you've kind of carried on the tradition, the legacy, if you will, of this business. How important is that? How important is that to you? And how important do you think that is, for others who might be thinking of the same?
Rod, I'll have to tell you, my son said to me one day, I think he was in high school, maybe a freshman or a sophomore. And he said, Mom, I actually don't want to be like you when I grow up. And I said, why? And he said, you work too much. He said, you come home, you worked all day, you come home and you work some more, and you're always tired. And he's like, I want to live my life. And when your kid says that to you, that's profound. And this was working in corporate America and giving everything that I had to give. And he really gave that additional nudge that you could do this. Wow. And so when he saw that we as a couple decided to branch out and become independent, and we still live the same quality of life that we lived before, then he realized this is something that can be done. Yeah. And so we're helping to create that entrepreneurial spirit and mentality in our own children, so that our goal is that that will happen generationally. So not just him, but his children, and so on and so forth.
Look, there's a lot of powerful companies, that have been built that way. Think of some of the larger agencies like Brown and Brown.
Yeah.
Where I think J. Hyatt Brown kind of started it. Now J. Powell Brown is, running it, and I'm sure it'll continue in their family. You're talking $1 billion organization, and that happens, over the course of generations. So yes. That is extremely commendable, especially having a 19-year-old. And I've been trying to get him to get licensed, man. He started that. I'm putting him on blast. He started that exam effects, but he just has not gotten through that bad boy. But he's going to study finance. Maybe he'll do it later on. I don't know.
That's right.
But so at this stage, and I want to touch on the leadership a little bit, but I want to talk about really, kind of what are your rules? Like, how do you stay motivated at this point in your career? Now you're starting to transition. We're going to talk about your other business too, but how do you stay motivated to keep building, keep moving forward in this way?
I think for me goes back to that attitude of being in service. So that servitude leadership. We have a team. We're recruiting. We're building a team. So we have other agents that we are accountable for. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm not just thinking about what is Nikki and Antonio going to do today. It's how is Nikki and Antonio going to support our team? What are we going to do to ensure that they have success? Absolutely. That they're able to grow their book of business. So we wake up and we think about them. We also think about the members that we're serving right now, our current book of business. How can I add value to their life today? Even though they've been on the book for a year or 2 years, what can I do to enhance them today? And so we do randomly reach out to our clients and just check on them. You know the ones that need that call. Yeah. So that's what wakes us up, because we're serving.
Yeah. Love it. And you mentioned, the recruiting piece and the training and supporting your team. And as I mentioned to you earlier, there are people who think extremely highly of you, because of your leadership capabilities and the impact that you made on them. Actually, one quote that was given was, she never made me feel like, even though she was the boss, she never made me feel like she was more important than me. She made me feel like I was the most important person.
Wow.
What are some of the aspects of, because people get into the business, but they want to, people, when you want to traverse, kind of the path that will take you into leadership and expanding and growing a team, and really where the exponential growth in this business comes from, what are some of the rules that you follow that, that somebody can kind of take away in their own leadership journey?
Wow. So I saw an article. I'm a history buff, Rod. So I love to read and learn, whether it's National Geographic or the History Channel, whatever it is. And I once read about how wolves travel in a pack. And the first few wolves in the pack are the weakest. They're the oldest in the pack. The ones behind them are the strongest. They're some of the strongest warriors. Then the ones in the third rows are going to be the ones that are good warriors, but they're not the front. They're not the front line. And then at the very rear is the leader. Mm-hmm. And the reason why they have the warriors behind the weakest or the oldest wolves is so that if an attack comes, they're able to protect them. They also set the pace for the rest of the pack because they're slower. Mm-hmm. So the leader needs to be behind because they can see everything. Mm-hmm. The leader should never be in the front. And I think when a leader leads by being support for their team, by not using I, by using we, by delegating so that they can get stronger, then you create the dream team. And that's how I like to serve.
Absolutely. These are also things for people to look for in their leaders if they're joining this industry or any other, you know,
Yes.
those leaders who really work from that place of support and lifting you up and don't have to, I go back to the source wars, you know, be all in the videos on the records. No,
Yeah.
but in all seriousness, you know, what you're saying is just very, very important. I see you at the library back there. You
Love
know,
to read.
any books, you know, that have stood out to you over the course of your career that maybe others might want to take a look at, either in leadership or in your journey as an agent or entrepreneur?
Oh my God, there's so many. I'd say one that I like in particular is the 80/20
Mhm.
sales and marketing. That's a good one. Gosh, I might actually want to cheat and look here.
Yeah, you can
There's
look.
so many.
Yeah.
God, there's so many, Rod. Um,
And if
I
you're
have,
listening, you won't see the library, but if you watch the video on YouTube, you'll see her library. She has just a wall of books back here.
I just love Eat That Frog.
Yes,
That's a good one.
it's Brian Tracy.
Yes.
Yes.
God, I could give you so many. I'll have to think about that and add some more. But
No,
those
that's
two stand out to me right now.
yeah. No, we'll definitely add 80/20 rule and Eat That Frog, you know, in the notes, you know, so that folks can get links and grab those books. Both, you know, great recommendations as well. So, how do you stay? How do you feel like your life is different now, like prior to being licensed? This is You Should Get a License. So prior to being licensed, after being licensed.
So prior to getting licensed, I always felt like I had to have a job.
Okay.
After getting licensed, I feel like I can sell myself more. Um, I always have an opportunity. There's something that I can always do. And that's, that's almost like people having a trade.
Yes.
You know, if you're a carpenter, you can always be a carpenter. I'm an insurance agent. I can sell in all, 50 states. I've got a great opportunity here. So that's how I feel the difference is. I never have to work for someone.
Even in this environment that we're in, this virtual environment.
Oh yeah. I have to say this, Rod, our business has gotten better in the virtual environment. And I'm going to say this to agents that are out here getting that windshield time, that are beating the streets and knocking on doors. 99% of the sales that we do are virtual. 99%.
So, hey, recession proof, COVID proof, all of those things. So, all right, now I want to pivot a little bit. I want to pivot because you have Carrington Insurance. You and Antonio are running that agency. There's also Burning Bush LLC. I gotta touch on this one, in this interview. So how did that come about? And tell me about Burning Bush. Tell me about that.
Yes. So I am actually currently pursuing a Master's of Science in Medical Cannabis Science and Therapeutics at the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy. And I have always been interested in herbs, holistic healing, naturopathic medicine. I'm all into that. And I decided, well, let me go back a little bit further. We actually have our son has sickle cell disease, but he's a survivor. He's doing extraordinarily well. Wonderful. And a lot of that has to do with how we have treated him over the years, eating proper foods and not utilizing traditional medicine. And so as that passion has grown and we've watched how holistic methods, alternative options have really helped people, we decided that we wanted to be that resource in the space as well. So we started Burning Bush back in 2019. We had a brick and mortar location. We were so excited about it. And this is how this pivot. Everybody has to be able to pivot.
Yes.
Started in 2019, opened up a brick and mortar location in 2020, and COVID hit. Devastating.
Oh yeah.
Devastating. We have a lease, 3-year lease on a building, and that was a very difficult, hard pill to swallow. So the pivot came in place, took the whole business, put it online, and we found that our client base began to grow because it was the pandemic. People had access to getting something that really helped them. You know, they were suffering from anxiety and depression, and they had pain management issues and just wanted to have, you know, overall better wellness in general. And so this gave them that tool. And we took that space and we turned that into our insurance location. So we get up, we go to work every day, even though it's 99% virtual, but we have a physical space that we work in, and we manage our CBD business online. And our goal is to introduce people, anyone that's interested in alternative methods of treating their conditions and offering holistic therapeutic options outside of traditional medicine.
Mm-hmm. With the cannabis industry, you know, it used to be, or even just talking about, you know, cannabis in general, it used to be kind of a taboo subject. Mm-hmm. But now with the attention to not just physical well-being, but also mental well-being and how that relates to insurance coverages. I mean, you have disability insurance that's covering mental and nervous nervous conditions as well. And, you know, and employee benefits, the space I'm in, you know, mental wellness and employee assistance programs that kind of feed that are very, very popular nowadays. How do you feel how do you feel, you know, cannabis kind of fits into the realm of your insurance business, or do you see them as separate?
They are completely intertwined. So I'm glad you brought that up as well, because as you know, we focus on Medicare sales, final expense, but we're really helping our members address the social determinants of health in what we do. And that's why we like working in that space, because we're able to provide our clients with access to benefits that help them with food insecurities, transportation, access to, when we talked about food and transportation, alternative medicine, acupuncture, you know, all of these things are now available to some of, you know, these clients based on the benefits that they choose. And in the space that we're in now, and especially with the degree that I'm pursuing, I am literally educating my centers of influence right now, pharmacists that I work with, that work for these managed care organizations, physicians, regional medical directors. In medical school right now are those that are doctors and they've gone through medical school. They didn't learn about medical cannabis.
Right.
It's still taboo for them. They don't know how it interacts with other medications. They don't know the benefits that patients can experience. They don't understand the therapy. And so when I'm speaking to clients, like I said, my centers of influence, sometimes I have to take off my insurance hat and put on my cannabis hat and talk to my behavioral health specialist and say, you know what, you might want to look at recommending medical cannabis to this particular client that's experiencing these issues. And I even help them in the state of Virginia with that process of getting approved for medical cannabis, the card. So those things go hand in hand. And I do believe, when I think futuristically, and again, being a political science major, is that the future is very close for us in regards to those two mixing, where insurance may one day pay for this as an alternative solution. So there's a lot that's happening. I just thought of
that I'm like, can you imagine, you know, the Medicare supplement that covers cannabis prescriptions?
It's coming. It's coming.
For seeing, I mean, listen.
It's
joints,
coming.
Nerves. You know, I've seen some studies even in adolescents, you know, where instead of, you know, diagnosing, you know, some other chemical, you know, bring this to the table to control Asperger's or even the MS, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
So
the
yeah, no,
space.
no, no. It's really fascinating. It's really fascinating. There's even been there's PNC agencies that are starting to insure cannabis growers as well. Now your company is a distribution model. Are you growing the CBD, and or how does that work with you?
We have a license to grow. We are not currently doing that
Okay.
because we're doing a lot already. So we're not currently doing that. But we do work with a manufacturer to get our products produced. And so we follow them from seed to shelf, but we're just not in that space yet. We haven't closed the door on that. It's definitely a possibility. And for now, we're just specifically working in the CBD space and getting the education to take that further in the medical cannabis space.
Right.
So
Right.
very exciting things are coming.
It's really expansive. And I say that, you know, not just from the standpoint of having, you know, this as a business and having it as a service available, but the fact that, you know, this is something that you have kind of extended off of your agency, even utilizing, you know, your agency space to kind of grow that business. It's very much out of the box thinking, right? And before recording, I was just saying, you know, I think it's really admirable that you said, hey, look, you know, you're kind of showing, hey, you don't have to just do this one way or to stay in one space. You can really kind of chart your own course.
Yes.
You know, so at this stage, you know, of your career, I mean, you've been successful independently. You've been successful in corporate environment. You've started another business that is successful. You have your children kind of joining the business, not kind of, but joining the business now. And already they have the mindset that this is going to be a legacy that our family continues with. What's the goal now? Like, what's the dream now?
So we always, matter of fact, it's so funny. We had our quarterly planning session today, just to talk about where we're going and what we anticipate. And we set a 3 to 5 year plan. And so the next goal is really focused on recruitment. And when I say recruitment, we're not looking for agents that want to be agents. We're looking for agents that want agencies. Mm-hmm. So our goal is to recruit leaders and to help them build our business. And that's our next phase. That's our focus for 2022.
Wonderful. And you're recruiting nationwide right now?
Yes.
Nationwide. So wherever you're international or just US?
No, just US.
Just US. Okay. New York as well?
We can do New York.
What? Look, if you're listening to New York right now, this is for you.
And I say that because one of the things about working in corporate America, Rod, is that we didn't start from scratch. We have very strong carrier relationships.
Right.
So those carrier relationships expand beyond Virginia.
Yes, absolutely. So someone new, you know, who's joining the business, maybe they're thinking, you know, maybe they had an interview with a company, or maybe they know someone who got into the industry, or they saw an ad, you know, in the paper. What would you say to them about joining this industry, about joining the insurance industry?
I would say you waited too late. So let's get started.
Yes.
The sky's the limit.
Absolutely. And for you, if they do want to get started and they want to get started with you, what's that process? How can folks get in contact with Nikki Carrington and Carrington Insurance? So
I'm going to give you multiple methods.
Please, list them all.
The email would be info@carringtonins.com. So that's info@carringtonins.com. I'll give you my direct number, which is 804-712-6324. That's this phone right here. So I actually always have that with me. So that would be the two best methods, phone or email.
Okay, great. So they can reach out email, they can reach out phone. You can social media, LinkedIn, it can reach out to you on the link on LinkedIn. We'll make
Yes.
sure we have those links, in there to the site as well, so they can really find out, all of the great things that you're doing. If they want to join your agency, because I know this is going to be a question, do they also get to be a part of Burning Bush as well?
We can have some side conversations.
That may come up.
Opportunities.
It might come up, Look, I really appreciate, you spending this time, as I mentioned. I know that, this is our first time really having a conversation, but I know it won't be, our last. And I'm excited to see you continue to grow. I'm excited to get to know you and Antonio and just find out more about your family and your business and support it in any way that we can as well via this platform. And for those who are listening out there, listen, you can start an insurance. You can transition to potentially CBD. You can transition to wherever you like. The opportunities are endless. You can keep growing and growing and growing. And, as Nikki mentioned, once you have that license, you can work for someone else or you can work for yourself. Either way, you're always going to be taken care of. And maybe throughout the course of this conversation, you heard something that made you think maybe you should get a license. So until next time, we'll talk soon. Take care.
Thanks, Rod.
Thank you.